It is the procedure about the different responsibility about their structural and its resources about how to different resilient part of the approach in the defining of the association and its practices about the work cultural and its association for the reformation, which is the associations and the different cooperative advantage, how to neutralization and its effective for their transition of the socialization. It is the different core and its efficiency for their resilient structural and its resources about their functional and its finding for their neutralization, which is the growing and its institutional association for the different navigation and socialization. The effective part of the approach and different growing and its resilient structural for the resources about the growth and its orientation of the socialization, which is the efficiency and dynamic institutional association for the different execution of work and its implementation for the different functional and its the resilient structural and its finding for their neutralization, which is the strategically defined and it's a politically resilient and its institutional association for the finding and its growth and its orientation, the management of the requirement and its economically phenomena of the structural resources about the growth and its orientation for their social and its evolutionary for their challenges, how to defining and its association for the different distinguish and transition of the socialization, have different technology cooperative advantages skill developments and its entrepreneurship systematic and its systematic and its surveillance for their working, the phase and its different regulatory and transforming the association and its navigation for their structural and its resources about the growing and its partially referendums, which is the inclusive advantage which have the finding and its institutionalization. It is the inclusive structural and its strategically different ability for the functional and its strategically deficiency which is accumulated for their supply chain and its capacity for their requirement, how to बताओ। इतना गर्मी में मेरे को चाय मिला है पीने के लिए, अभी टेम्परेचर नहीं हो तो कम से कम 33 से 34 डिग्री सेल्सियस होगा, उस टेम्परेचर में चाय मिला है, वो भी गर्म है। देखते हैं कितना देर में फिनिश होता है। ये तो मोबाइल गिरा 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 गिरा, देखते हैं कितना देर में फिनिश होता है। अभी आधा है इसमें। अभी भी 25% है इसमें। लग रहा है कि सीने में इतना जलन हो गया, इतना गर्म है कि उस पे से गर्म ही और है। खत्म, फिनिश। It is the inclusivity for their different regulatory and its advantage for their growing, which is the occupancy for their transformation and its transition of the society, which is the different regulatory and its efficiency for their resilient part of the approach, how to resilient structural and its resources about different beginning of the society, which is the finding and its prosperity for their institutional association, the navigation of the socialization, which is the efficiency and its gracefully responsibility for their different dynamic institutional association, the conservative and its social and its evolutionary for their gracefully transition of the society, which have comprehensive advantage, the social and its emerging for their challenges, which is the capacity for their different intrusive and its systematic way of the working and its capacity for their neutral efficiency, which is the beginning of the social and its evolutionary for their guest of the society. I just try to improve the proper way of the delivering of any concept about how to deliver of the different data and its strategy without any interruptions and without any hesitation. I just try to influence myself, which is the gracefully transformations and its strategically deficiency, the process of their developmental and its ideologically, which is their transformation. It is the effective for their transaction, which is the functional and its association for their different gracefully and its a regulatory for their efficiency. The challenges for their capacity and its requirement for the phenomena of the structural and its resources about the different executive and its escalation of working and its finding for their institutional association for their different navigation and socialization, which is the influential, which is the partially and its a different ability for their function. The growing and its challenges for their capacity and its requirement for their different phenomena of the navigation and its socialization. The effective and its challenges strategically deficiency execution of work in insecurity about their procedures and its defining for their association. The navigation and challenges for their capacity and its requirement. The growth and its orientation for their socialization and its efficiency, which is the beginning of the society and its comprehensive for their social and its evolutionary for their challenges, the capacity and its resilient structural, the resources about different guests of the society and its inclusivity for their resilient structural, how to different beginning and its strategically deficiency, the inclusive for their different growing and its conservative of the challenges for their defining association and its navigations for their working and its capacity for their neutral efficiency, the challenges which is the defining and its strategically deficiency, which is the execution of work and different management of the requirement and its phase and its orientation, the social and its evolutionary for their challenges, how to defining and its association and its inclusivity for their resilient part of the approach, the distinguish and transformation and its institutionalization for their growth and its orientation for their beginning of the society, which is the different minority and its a majority community, which they associate and it's helping for the growing economy and without any interruption of working and its facilitates for their supplementary supply chain and its working and its efficiency for their dynamic institutional, the working and its challenges for their capacity and its resilient structural for their resources about association, the comprehensive advantage, how to distinguish for their level of the transformation technology associations, how they are cooperative for their resilient association, the neutral efficiency and its gracefully for their transactions and its capacity for their neutralization, which is the capacity of the working and its procedures for their defining and its navigation for their supply chain, how to different growth and its orientation, the challenges for their capacity and its neutral efficiency, the beginning and its inclusivity for their regulatory and its effective for their challenges for their gracefully transactions, how to navigation and its challenges for their defining and it's a structural about I just try to focus about the fragmentation and its executions, which is the forbidden for their process and its a execution of working and its capacity for their neutralization, which is the process for their different distinguish and transition, how to neutral efficiency and challenges for their distinguish and transformation for their transition of the society, which have their inclusive advantage and it's a resilient part of the approach, resources about different beginning and it's a inclusivity for their resilient structure, the finding of the institutionalization and its growth and its orientation for their neutral efficiency, procedures about their growth and its orientation for their neutralization, which is the scope and its efficiency for their hoping about the energy capacity and its execution of the supplementary and its association for their different capacity and its requirement for their phenomena, it is the resilience for their structural and its resources about their requirement and its phenomena of putting down the flowing association and its finding for their neutralization, which is the growing and its influential association for their different navigation of the society, how to challenges and its capacity for their resilient structural and its resources about different beginning and its socialization, which is the effective part of the approach and its distinguish of the transformation and transition of the different inclusivity for their resilient structural resources about different procedures and its inclusivity, which is the different functional and its association for their navigation and its working capacity for their neutralization, which is the hoping system, and its challenges for their capacity and its resilient for their association, how to different role in its regulatory for their transaction. It is the capacity of the requirement and its phase and its orientation for their different systematic and its challenges for their defining and its procedures about different beginnings for these challenges, how to different capacity and its preconceptions and its obstructive and its balance for the working when the transaction of the capacity and its resilient structural for the growing and its partially referendums, which is the insecurity about the social environment and its administrative resilient association for the finding and its association for their capacity and its requirement, the phase and its orientation for the different navigation and systematic, which is the challenges for their capacity and its neutral efficiency, the beginning of the society which have their challenges and its capacity for their neutral efficiency, the procedures and its beginning for their social and its evolutionary and its capacity for their resilient association, navigation, how to intrusive for their working capacity, which is the working and it's basically for their supply chain and it's a working for their social and it's evolutionary for their capacity and its requirement, the phase and its orientation for their socialization, how to gracefully transition and it's a beginning of the society, which is the management about, it is the superficial and it's a management for their requirement and it's a functional for their association, the navigation and challenges for their capacity and its resources about their functional and its navigation for their inclusivity for their different working and its capacity for their resilient structure, it is the balance for their capacity, how to transaction and its surrounding part of the role in its regulatory challenges, the capacity and its neutralization for their beginning and its socialization, the different beginning and its inclusivity, which is the resilient structural and its functional for their defining and its association for their distinguish, which is the partially and its differentiation coordinations and its supplementary for their systematic and its surveillance for their distinguish for their transaction, the navigation and it's all about their phenomena of the structural and its resource efficiency, which is the gracefully transition of the society, the functional and its associations, which is the navigation and its part of the approach, how to different conservative of the society and its inclusivity for their challenges, how to navigation and it's all about their different phenomena of the structural and its resources about different growing and its partially different resilient and its structural for their resources, it is the beginning of the social and its evolutionary for their gradually transition and it's all about the different way of the efficiency and its dynamic procedures for their different gracefully transition, बार बार डिफरेंट आ जा रहा है, बार बार डिफरेंट आ जा रहा है, बार बार डिफरेंट आ जा रहा है, कितना भी उसको रिमूव करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं बट डिफरेंट 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 आकर दिमाग ख़राब कर दे रहा है, बट उसके बाद भी आई विल ट्राई माई बेस्ट टू डिलीवर best and best speech. I will the strategy transformations and it's a gracefully transaction for their different inclusivity and it's a resilient structural for their resources. How to different फिर different आ गया, the growing and its influential part of the approach, the procedures and its efficiency for the resilient structural and its appreciation of work, balance for their capacity and its conservative advantage, enlightenment for their procedure, fragmentation of the ideology, gorgeous about their looking and it's highlighting for their different फिर different आ गया, different importance for their working and its orientation and its distinguish for their challenges, how to capacity and its requirement for their phenomena of the structural and its resources about, ऐसा लग रहा है कि मैं सुधार पाऊंगा या नहीं पाऊंगा, बट देखते हैं कहाँ तक कितना दिन टाइम लगता है इसको और ज़्यादा इम्प्रूव करने में. But I will try my best, which I have capacity to improve myself. Okay, then I will try much more better day by day, and I will also honestly working for myself to improve my communication skills, and I will associate different data and statistics to deliver in different forms of the statistically different videos, and it's statistically defined for their challenges, which is the capacity and its efficiency. Okay.